Hi everybody. Sorry we're really late. It's just been a nightmare. What was that dropped down the back? Okay. Please let me know as usual if the I've lost my live chat on YouTube. Please let me know that the sound's working. And yeah, thank you so much everybody for being patient. It's been a bit of a stressful day, to be honest. But we're there now. Are we working? Do we have sound? I've got subtitles on Facebook, so I'm assuming so. And I think that there we go. Keep this in calm. Exactly. Sound and pick are good. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping yourselves entertained. I do appreciate it. It's just, yeah, everything went wrong that could go wrong, and then we couldn't get a feed from the cameras, and we've had to reboot everything. So anyway, we are here, and I might end up being alone, but right now Casper is here. He's dragged himself out, bless him, to help. So there you go. Hand is there to prove it. So if he has to go in, which is quite likely, bear with me guys, because I'll just have to move a few things about so that I can fly the cameras properly. But good evening. So I need to just calm down and take a breath. Hello, Ruth. I've just seen Ruth. Ruth's watching. She says that she's going to need to get a new lathe. She's watching on the Facebook page stream, and she commented earlier, and I said yes, because we need more ladies involved in wood turning. So definitely. Good evening to Neil and Rick. Neil, I got your message. I didn't reply to you earlier because it's just been such a crazy day. Neil has accidentally managed to buy himself another lathe because these things happen. Whoops. But yes, there we go. I don't even have a hairbrush. I haven't brushed my hair today. It's all a nightmare. Anyway, let's get on with the show. So this evening, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I think I say that probably every live that I do, actually, because I try and keep it varied. But we're going to be looking at making some pendants this evening, and I am going to run through making a couple of little chucks. They're just glue chucks, but they're reusable and they're very useful, and that's how I turn my pendants. I am sure that there are people who have got different ways, because there's so many different ways of doing pendants that and I'm pretty sure that people will put their thoughts and ideas in the chat, so please feel free. But this is sort of my little way. We're going to be doing hopefully 2, depending on time, because we've been late starting. It's put things behind a little bit. So I'll take this off actually, because I don't like turning in jewellery, apart from stud earrings or sometimes slightly longer earrings. But these are the pendants that we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be doing a slightly domed pendant. I'm going to be using resin and burr. I was going to get a piece of timber, so that I was going to do one out of timber and one out of resin, but to be honest, I didn't have time to go and cut a piece, which sounds ridiculous, but after the day that it's been, it's not that unbelievable. So we're going to be turning a little domed pendant, which is going to be mounted using a pinch bail. I'll come to that in a little while. So that's one little type of pendant. And the other type of pendant is going to be a larger one. And this one's going to have an off-center area that we're going to cut through. Okay, and that one's just been held just with some leather thonging. There we go. So those are the 2 pendants that we are doing this evening. But like I say, we will start from the beginning. And the first thing that we're going to look at is actually making the little chucks to create our pendants with. So they're really easy. They're not very time consuming at all. The useful thing is you can use up tiny little blocks of wood to make these. In fact, I was rummaging in the scrap bin earlier to see if I could find a piece that would work. But I have knocked it off the back of the lathe and I am not delving down there for it. So I just grabbed another piece really quickly. So let me just clear the decks. This is 2-inch square. Basically, we are going to be making a tiny little screw chuck, and we're going to be using a scrap piece of wood. So you need to be able to put a spigot on it that, or a tenon that will fit into the jaws of your chuck. So a 2-inch square fits perfectly for the Axminster C jaws, which are the jaws that I'm using this evening. Oh, pencil. Where that had gone. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the centres, because this is still square stock, and this we need to round off and put our tenon on. Lincolnshire Pete's on the speckled hen tonight. Okay, there we go. Oh, thank you, Mike. Is that just to try and calm me down? Thank you very much. Right. So, I'm going to put my stem centres into the chuck. And I've got my other stem in the tailstock. And we're just going to round this off really quickly. This is actually way too wide, way too thick. In fact, I'm just going to whiz that off on bandsaw, because it really doesn't need. This is a 2-inch cube. It only needs to be about 1 inch thick, if that, 3/4 of an inch. For 2 seconds. So I'll refine that centre. There we go. By the way, guys, have you noticed the t-shirt? I have my Team Tiny t-shirt on. Mine obviously doesn't say Team Tiny because I'm the boss, of course. But yeah, we've got the Team Tiny mushroom on there. These t-shirts, I was telling the members on Thursday night that we finally got some t-shirts up and running. They will all be available on the website from tomorrow. I haven't had time to do it today. That was something else I had hoped to get done, but they will be available from tomorrow. And you can get either Team Tiny ones, or you can just get normal Tiny Turner ones. And they are embroidered by one of our members as well. Julie, who owns Make Penny Crafts. So it's a UK, you are supporting a UK one-woman band, and Julie is the person who makes the t-shirts for us. Well, doesn't make the t-shirts, but does the embroidery, does the badges and everything. So they are fabulous. The quality is wonderful. And yeah, we're going for embroidering because we're classy. We're not going for sublimation. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're superb quality. If I can drag Casper down, I might show you his other t-shirt. It's a no. I'll go get his other t-shirt and hold it up and show you it. He's not very well tonight, guys, so I'm just rounding this off. See, we need classy, posh stuff. Everybody knows. Okay, so that is trued up. We need our beading parting tool. We're going to pop a tenon on there. That's still a little bit wide, actually. Still a bit deep, should I say. And then we're putting this into the jaws of the chuck. So the next job we have to do is face up the front. Just take that down a little bit. And then we're going to put a little hole in there. So we pile it in a hole so that we can screw our screw through from the back and make our little screw chuck. So these are so useful, honestly. It's really not a bad idea to knock a couple of these up anyway and just have them around the workshop, because they are fab, I have to say. Let's have a look, actually. I bandsawed this really wonky, so I am just going to turn... No, let's do it the easy way, Emma. Let's do it this way. Tidy that up. There we go. Oh, and the other cool thing is that I'll tell you how good the quality is. Julie is approved by the MOD. I hope I'm getting that right. If I'm not, please tell me. But yeah, so that's how good she is. So, you know, we only have the best over at Tiny Turners. Only the best will do. Right, that is blunt, so let's give that a sharpen, because that's just chewing through the wood. Okay, I've just put a drawn back wing on there, slightly drawn back anyway. Which we will need in a little while, so you will be able to see that in action soon. That's better. Let's have a look up. Okay, now the important thing with this screw chuck is that the front face is flat. So make sure there we go. Make sure that it is as flat as you can get it. If you're not great at that, then you can always stick it onto a sander and just sand that off. But that is pretty much flat enough for what we require. So let's swap over the tailstock and pop in our little Jacob's chuck. Chucky. There's a lot of little bits involved with the old jewellery making, so my little side table's full of stuff. Somewhere there is a 4mm bit. She says. No, there ain't. That's a 5mm bit. Flipping it, Emma. I have spares, we're all good. Yeah, you can use a skew as a scraper or a flat scraper to try and get that as straight as you can. Just try and get it as flush as possible, or if not, then just make it ever so slightly concave if you're not sure. It's just to try and make sure that it all butts up correctly. Okay, so let's turn the speed down and we're just going to drill through with this 4mm drill bit. Now, depending on what size screws you've got, use an appropriate drill bit to pilot. I'm using, I don't really know what they're classified as. I'm not good with stuff like that, you guys know. But it's one of these. It's got a bolt head instead of, it's not a slotted screw or a posit. It's it is a bolt head. So I'm using that because it's got quite a wide thread, and I find that the wider threads mean that you can keep reusing your whatever you're screwing onto it a little bit better, because what we're making, the glue chucks, it will help you if you can keep reusing it, because you're not going to need to keep constantly making new glue chucks, for example. So let's take this out and we will pop in our bolt or screw. I don't know what it's called. I don't know. Okay. Now, if you want, one I did earlier, when I was quickly remaking these, I did recess it slightly, but be careful because there isn't thread running all the way down to the basing, to the head of the screw, which with the normal screws isn't a problem. But it just means that if you're not careful, you've got no thread holding the screw into the back of the faceplate, or whatever this is classified as. Oh, this is not working. This is wonderful. Pardon? No, it's not the spanner. I couldn't get it to catch. Okay. Now we're going. It's a lag bolt. There you go. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. I have learned something new today. Or a coach bolt screw. Okay, so there we go, guys. A lag bolt or a coach bolt screw is what we are using this evening. But you don't have to do that. Any screw is good as long as it's got a fairly wide thread. Don't get any tiny little threaded screws, because all that will happen is when you put your chuck on there, if you get a little bit of a snag or anything, it can end up just ripping it out of the, well, it'll just round it off, and then your chuck's no longer useful. So you don't need too much protruding. If you think that it's going to foul on the back, then you might need to make a little bit of a recess or countersink your screw. But as I say, I have to be careful with these because they've got that area that's got no thread on them. But I do like these. They work really well. So the next job, we've got this section made, so we can put that to one side. As I say, I do have another one here should we need it. This is a well old one. Just noticed that's come out a bit. So the next thing we're going to create are the actual glue chucks, and for these I am going to again put them between centres. So I will just swap to my stabs. 1, 2. I'll just make one because we're making exactly the same thing. Let me have a think. Actually, no, we'll put that screw chuck back in. We'll do that. So let's put our screw chuck back in. Oh, that's where the drill bit is. It's all ready to go. I was too organised. I was a step in front of myself. So I've got a piece of sycamore here, and this is about 1.5 inches thick, roughly, maybe 1 3/4 inches. Width-wise, I reckon it's about 3.5. Yeah, 3 3/4 diameter. diameter wise, it doesn't matter too much. If you're going to be making large pendants, then try and keep it around the 3-inch. If you're going to be making smaller ones, then you can go below that. But this just allows you the option of both. So I am going to find the center of this piece of timber, and then we are going to screw it onto the screw chuck, and we might as well just round it off on there. So I'm just piloting the hole to wind this up onto the screw chuck. I'll bring that up for support, but we probably don't need it. And then I'm just going to round this off, and then again we need to make sure we have a flat surface there. I forgot to say this, the one side of this is flat already. Again, you want flat going up to flat ideally when you're using a screw chuck and like a faceplate. So flat up to flat will help you. Let's turn that down a bit. Move the tool rest in, and I have just seen a question about the stab center that I use. These are genuine stab centers, as in original stab centers. So these ones are made by Robert Sorby, and they're just like stubby stabs that go into your chuck. I can't remember. I don't know if they have a correct name, if you like, but I have two of them. That one's the I think it's 1 1/4 inch, and that one's the is that a 3? That's the 3/4 inch, and that's the 1 1/4 inch. They're brilliant because you're not having to mess around taking your chuck off. I'm not really, I don't have a live center. Sorry, I don't have a drive center stab apart from those two. So there you go. There are others that make them. Because your actual stab centers are not cheap. I know that Kronos make them. I think it's about £13. And a lot of people use them, and they're very happy with those. But I haven't got one, so I can't really comment. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick push cut on the side of this for no reason other than aesthetics. Okay. And then we can take this set away, we don't need it. And we can just tidy up this front and again make that nice and flat. Now ideally there's two different ways of making pendants. The two that I've shown you have got a domed side, front and back, so you kind of have that kind of shape. It's domed on both sides. A lot of people do a flat back with just a slightly rounded edge at the corner, because we know that wood and resin can be sharp, so they have it slightly rounded at the corner, but a flat back. And that can all be turned from one flat faceplate. I do, I'll turn the one that's slightly dished, because in order to do the dished ones, you need a flat one, and then you need one that's got a bit of a scooped out surface. So this is my flat one. It's just turned exactly to this point, straightened off on there, and I've just give it a sand. And that is perfectly fine for the first stage, because we're going to be gluing straight onto that, and it's going to be a flat surface to a flat surface. So we need that first of all. And then I have a domed one. Ignore all this. I will explain that as we go along. So that is the domed one, which you will then need for remounting. So that's what I'm going to make now. I'm going to make a second domed one. Okay. So we'll just tidy it up to begin with. So that's trued up, and that's where I'd leave it. Now, as long as that's flat, then I would leave it there for the flat block, and just I would give it a sand on the front. But I am going to dome this ever so slightly, so I'm going to keep it fairly flat on the outer area, because that doesn't need to be domed. And then I'm just going to come in and just very steadily take that out. And I try and get a smooth flowing curve all the way across. Now, it's really easy when you're making these to overdo it slightly with that that curve. You want a very, very shallow curve. Otherwise, if it's too deep, it can be slightly awkward to use. So I don't know if I can show you in any way. If I hold that, it probably falls away to about 1/8 of an inch over a 2.5 inch area. So it is very, very gentle, is that curve. And again, I am going to give that a really quick sand up, just so that we've got a good surface for gluing onto, or using tape, which is actually what we're going to be doing tonight. Right, so that will do us for our little block. Now, if you want to put a few rings on there for lining up your pendants, you can do. It's not essential, because I'm hopefully going to be able to show you a way that you don't need to do that. By the way, the reason that I keep these thick is because you can keep changing the profile if you need to. And if you decide you just want to do one of these and have it flat to begin with and then curve it, then that's up to you. But having these nice and thick is quite useful. So I am just going to do 1 or 2 reference lines on there, about 1/4 of an inch apart. It's also not a bad idea to mark the centre. Oops, she says. Okay. And then I tend to mark up somewhere on the chuck, the faceplate chuck that we've done, the little screw chuck, and the blank itself, because if the screw that you've put in there is slightly off, it can cause you 1 or 2 problems. To be honest with you, yeah, you try and be as accurate as you can when you are putting these on, but it does go wrong sometimes. So I've just got a mark on the top, and that corresponds to this mark on the back. So as long as those 2 match up when we put the screw, when we thread this on, then we should be absolutely fine. So that's dished out slightly. Okay. So I'm going to put this one on again. This is the flat one, because we're going to need this one first. Make sure that's all running true. It doesn't matter if it goes out of true top to bottom, as long as the face is flush. Because when I show you how I put them together and mark them up, then it should hopefully help you out. Okay, so take that off. And I'm going back. No, I'm not. So next we're going to put a sanding disc onto the lathe because we need to make sure that one's a little bit coarse. Where's my other? We need to make sure that our piece of timber or resin that we're using for our pendants is flat to begin with. So I just flatten it off using this, dead easy. Okay. So the two that I'm going to be using tonight, I'm going to be using one that starts out as 3-inch, and that's the one that we're going to offset. 3-inch is a little bit large really for a pendant, but we can always turn it down to about 2.5 diameter roughly. That makes a nice size pendant. And this one is 2-inch square, is the smaller one. That was the same size as the one I had on to begin with. So those are the two. So I'm just literally going to take them and just do one side. One side only needs to be flat, and it doesn't particularly matter which way you do it because we're doming it. So it doesn't matter in this instance which the front and the back is because we're going to be turning both faces. You would be turning both faces if you were doing it on a flat piece. So if it was going to have a flat back, you need to sand off the front section because you're going to glue the front on first, turn the back, flatten it off, put your little bit of a chamfer on the edge, and then you're going to turn it round, and that side is not going to be touched again. So that's going to be turned, sanded, finished, turned round, and then you'll shape the front to whatever shape you want it to be if you're having it with a flat back, but we aren't. So I'm just going to swap over now to the old power cap because it's resin, and we all know that that is not good for your lungs. And then I'm going to check back on the old chat and see if I've missed anything. So we'll turn the speed down. Put the extraction on. Same again on this second piece. And then we can take this out and we're going back to the stem centers. So as I'm doing that, I will check back for any questions that I've missed. So I'll find both the centers on both of these pieces.
Thanks for all as usual.
Say again.
Thanks for all as usual for the thumbs up comment.
Hi Hugh. Nice to see you. So I've just put the centers on one side of these because we're going to line it up whilst it's between centers. So We'll do the large one first, and all I'm doing is eyeing through and getting the best line up as I can with it. And then we will take the corners off and round it off. Now, you could do this on the bandsaw, but I want the centres marked on here for a reason. So that is why I opt to do it on the lathe. There's very few times that I knock corners off on the bandsaw, to be honest, because I know it sounds daft, but bandsaw blades are expensive and you're taking quite a lot of extra cuts. If you try and turning it round and it's a wide blade like mine, mine's a 3/4 inch blade, you're going to start stressing the blade, and it sounds stupid, but it's going to take 2 minutes to round this off, and it's a lot easier to sharpen my chisel than it is to sharpen the bandsaw blade if I'm using it and using it and using it to cutting corners off that I really don't need to do. So we're between centres. Right, so we'll just make sure that that is trued up. Just a little bit more. Steve, you don't have a bandsaw, so when I give you my lathe, can you have my bandsaw too? You'll need quite a large shed to put it in. It's quite big. Okay, so I want to make sure that there's not much damage on this edge. Now this here, that's shrinkage from the resin when it's being cast. This was cast as a cube initially, and this is just a slice from a cube. So I am going to turn it down to get rid of that, because where it is, it's still going to potentially cause us a few problems. So yeah, let's just take that down. It's too wide anyways, 3 inch, so I have no issue removing that. So I'm just taking gentle cuts. Now this is too thick for a pendant, really. It could probably be about half this thickness. I'd say start with something about 3/8 of an inch, or maybe half an inch diameter thickness for your pendant, for your large pendants. Your smaller ones, definitely 3/8 is enough. Even putting them between centres. So I'll check if that's screwed up. I'm only taking gentle cuts with the ball gouge because I don't want to put loads of pressure on and shatter the resin. You know. Yeah, so that's fine. Now you want a good finish on this edge, so I haven't got any shattering or tear out. You could, if you want, sand that at this stage, because I don't like them coming to a point. I like to have a slight bit of a flat, or even just slightly rounded, because it's going to be worn and we don't want sharp edges on something that's going to be worn. So as I say, I will, in fact, I'll just give that a quick going over with some 4 and 600, because it's really a good finish. So again, $400 should be plenty. Just get those scratches out, which there aren't many. And then I will take this one out of the lathe and I will do the same with the smaller blank. Heather, yeah, I don't have carbide tools. I like my traditional tools. There's nothing wrong with carbides. They have their place, obviously, but I just like, I'm quite happy with the traditional tools, really. And it doesn't take, they don't take that much of a beating. Your carbides are going to take a very similar amount of hassle themselves. They'll take just as much a beating, so these are cheaper. Pardon?
Request from Casper if they're enjoying it so far from it. Just a request from me if they're enjoying it.
Yeah. Casper's just asked if you're enjoying it, give us a thumbs up, guys. Give us a share, especially if you're watching on Facebook. Give us a share. Tell people that you're watching. Share the love. Right. So we'll do the same with this one and whip these corners off. A little bit more. Now I'm using the side of the ball gouge kind of more to scrape, really, just to get a decent finish on there. So yeah, we're flat, so we'll just again whiz over that with a little bit of 400 grit, because it's perfectly good enough a surface is that to just go straight onto the 400. Okay, and then now we come to our little glue chucks. So we'll move that out of the way for a minute. Okay, so where are we? So we've got our little glue chuck already set up here. So on the screw chuck that we've quickly made earlier. So again, just pop that on and make sure this front edge is running true. This was on a different screw chuck, which was a little bit wonky, which is why it's turning slightly out of true on this front edge, but this is flat. So the next job that we need to do is to attach our blank to here. So try and get rid of any dust that's on the front of there, any dust that we've got left over on the pendant blanks. And then, personally, for the first stage, I use this stuff. Carpet tape, double-sided sticky tape. It's really, really sticky. I don't like using glue guns for the flat bit. So this is the stuff that I go for. This is really good because it's partially clear and it's ridiculously sticky. It's a nightmare to cut actually because it's that sticky. So it's 2-inch wide tape, but that doesn't matter because you can always build up whatever size you want to do. Stick a bit on there. Give it a really good pressing down. And then, pardon? Oh, Beasley, welcome to Team Tiny. Woo! Welcome to the madhouse. It certainly has been that this week. So this now, guys, is how I line these up. We have got a centre point on both sides, and we know that this is all centrally lined up. So I remove the tape, the backing tape, backing paper, whatever. She says, cut my nails earlier, didn't I? Fatal mistake. Okay. Pop that onto the front of your centre, whether it's a cone centre, whatever revolving centre it is, but pop that on there and then just hold it on and wind it in. I then really wind it up to give it a good press. What was that?
No, something else.
Strange. Probably. Yeah. Better check that there's no access under here. So give that a good press and just leave it a couple of minutes just for it to really kind of get a grip on there, bit of pressure, and that we know then is fully lined up and centered. Hi Terry, good evening. I completely forgot to share this live everywhere tonight. I only got it up and running yesterday because we weren't sure whether it was going to happen. Okay, so we now have pretty solid connection there. I'm giving it a bit of a wiggle. It's not moving. Happy days. That's what we want. And it's amazing how strong this can be. The trick is don't get it hot. So when you're sanding, that's the worst time because it makes the glue on the tape start to soften, and that's when it can come off. So try and avoid getting it too hot. So we're going to begin by making this, rounding this off slightly, making it convex. So get a feel for it, make sure it's turning happily. That long drawn back wing can be used to do some pull cuts, but make sure if you're doing pull cuts that you don't take heavy cuts because it'll shatter the resin and it can grab. If you want to put yourself a pencil line in the middle of this, so while it was still thick, if you put it halfway, then that's not a bad idea if you want to use it to make sure you're doing the curvature 50-50. But to be honest, it is quite thick, this piece still. So I am going to take it down a little bit. So we only want a gentle curve. You don't want anything too kind of raised. We want it just to have a hint of a curve, really, because we want it to lie well once as it's being worn. We don't want it to kind of stick out. Now, of course, if you are going to do one with a flat back, at this stage, we'd be turning this completely flat so that we can reverse it and then put some shape on the front. But that's not what we're doing this evening. We are doing a double domed pendant. Well, two double domed pendants. So I've just reduced it really in depth. And I think that's going to balance out a lot better. Now I'm just trying to make sure that that curve flows completely. That should do us. So we're going to move on to sanding. We've got a really good finish straight from the tool because we've been taking really nice light cuts. I'm going to start with 240 grit and work up to 600. And you can, if you want, use something like a rotary sander. But like I say, just be careful that you don't build up too much heat. It's not so bad at this stage, but when we turn it round and it's a lot thinner, that's when you need to be very careful with your sanding. So I like, I forgot to put the extraction on. So I like to use the net abrasive because I can really feel when it's getting hot. Your net abrasives are on a mesh, so you can feel that transfer of heat. So remember, guys, to keep checking that your scratches, they're all being removed as we go through the grits. I will get some 600. Okay. Right. Now, if you want, at this stage, you can go on to using something like Yorkshire Grit, burnishing cream, anything along those lines, if you don't have a buffing system. But if you do that, you really need to wipe that clean and get any greasy residue off, because when we turn it round to mount it again, if you've got greasy residue on there, you have no chance of that ever sticking ever again. So this is the fun bit now. It's getting these two apart. I often find that actually taking the tape off is a slightly easier way because the tape can really grip onto the resin sometimes. It's going to embarrass me now and not come off. But you should be able to pare them away. There we go. So that is one side of our first pendant done. Now, to save a little bit of time, I'm going to keep this chuck on and we're going to do the same with the larger pendant. And then we're going to take it a slight step further. So, I need some more tape. You can sometimes get away with using the same piece of tape if it comes off and stays on your chuck. You can sometimes get away with it as long as it's not dusty. Oh, it's so hard to cut is this because it just gunks your scissors up. Rah! Oh my word. Things have got bad. Come on, scissors. Just chew through it. Okay. Right, that's no good because it's full of dust from my fingers. Right. This is the problem with this stuff. You need some isopropyl alcohol or something just to get the residue off, because every time you cut it, it just puts more residue on there. I only cleaned these scissors earlier today. Right. Pardon? Oh yeah, I'll see if it'll swish through with a Stanley. Yeah. Cracking idea. Let's get a clean piece that I haven't got my hands all over. Stanley knife's the way to go. Look at that lovely diamond shaped piece of tape, because I can't cut straight with the blade. Well, not at that angle anyway. So again, really give it a good press down. Bring your tailstock up so that you know that you're going to get this mounted centrally. Oh yeah, take the tape off first. Don't. Apply some pressure and leave it a couple of minutes just to make sure it really does grip. Nigel, double-sided tape's used a lot for chucks. This is not my idea at all. There's a gentleman from the US who does a lot of work using tape as chucks. He's called Raleigh. Let me just find his surname. I follow him on Instagram. I watched him on Woodturners Worldwide. Really, really lovely guy. Bear with me. I'm just trying to find his name. Oh, it's just down as Raleigh. Raleigh's Journey. If you if you have a look at Raleigh's Journey on Instagram, he uses loads of tapes for chucks. RALEIGHSJOURNEY. And he makes leaf bowls, and that's his main form of chucking. Is the tape. So it really does work very well. Just get a decent tape. Whatever you do, don't buy something cheap and rubbish, because it will send it across the workshop. So make sure that we are nice and connected. Give it a wiggle, because that's where the forces are going to be. Make sure that it's nicely stuck on. And to be honest, I have had these come off. It's normally when you're doing the dish stage, which is actually why I tend to use glue for that stage, as you will see. But if you do use tape for the when we mount these the other way, I have had them come off, and they're not very heavy. Yes, they can still hurt if they come off, or they can still cause a little bit of damage, but you're more likely to have them damage themselves than cause you a lot of impact, because they're really, really not heavy at all. But that is not an excuse to be complacent or buy cheap tape. And I just saw somebody had upgraded to being a super member. So nice one. I think it was Pauline, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely get a jingle, of course. She does right. Good lady. Okay. So, same again. Rinse and repeat. Sorry. I might treat myself to a new edge on my fold out. Now this is epoxy. The other one was made from polyurethane. This is epoxy. I hate turning epoxy. I cannot stand the stuff. It stinks. It just powders a lot more, and I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of turning epoxy. Much prefer urethane resin. Yeah, we're having a new edge. There we go. Hopefully that will be a lot better. Now don't get sort of trigger happy with this. Keep it steady. You really don't want to be taking massive chunks out of this and really big cuts, because it's going to pull it off the chuck. And it's also going to cause shattering on the resin. So again, I'm just going to take this down a little bit in width because it's a little bit on the wide side. Let's have a look at that. Not quite flowing yet, but not far off. Now do remember that we've got a few little marks on the other side from where the stem centre was, so we don't want to turn it right down to like the limit that you want it to be. We need a little bit of room to manoeuvre for removing a bit of depth on the other side. Now, you'll often see me turning with one eye closed because I'm trying to get a good view of the profile of this. I'm watching the horizon, but you can't really see a lot with both eyes open. So I do close one eye, and it just allows me to see the shape that I'm creating a lot better. Especially when you're after a flowing curve. It's not bad.
No, 7 miles of ready to a super member.
Oh wow, Trev, thank you. Super members. Super members, don't forget you guys get a free Team Tiny mug. So please get in touch with me. Right. So that side now, we can give this a little bit of a sand up again. I'm not going to spend loads of time because we've got more things to do when this gets changed over. So this is going to be in and out of a couple of chucks, is this particular pendant, whereas the other one's only got one more section to be done, and then it's completed.
One more bit of turning. Need to drop down a brick with that. Not quite. It's not quite that good. It's not quite straight onto 400. Just feel a little bit of something or other there. So I've just dropped down to 240. We've got a bump, that's what's going on. Need to take that off. So I'm going to use my ball gouge as like a bit of a scraper. So I'm closing the flute all the way, and I'm just using that cutting edge with the bevel not touching, just to take an incredibly light cut, just to scrape. But you really need to remain in control of the chisel if you do that, because if you let it go too far, or you put too much pressure on, you can end up having a catch. That feels a bit better. That's better. Straight away. Crikey, everyone's at it. Yay, Mick's a super member. They're all doing it just for the mug. That's ace, guys. It really does just help support me that little bit more. So I massively appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who is a member of Team Tiny. And we do have fun. We had a really good live on Thursday night. I'll show you what I made. Actually, we were doing resin then. And I'll show you what we made. It turned out really nice. It's better. So straight through to 600. And that's that sorted. I'm not spending too much time on the sanding of this one because, as I say, we've still got a little bit of a way to go with it. So, again, got to get this off. Nightmare. It's really sticking well tonight, is this? Where's my knife? There we go. So, if... Bleh. No, there's no point in explaining that yet. It won't make sense. Okay, so now we need to change our chuck. So we're done with the flat chuck. We now need to put our other one on. Make sure those two lines line up properly. It means everything's running true. Cool. Okay. So at this stage now, we can put our little piece on there and we can give that a bit of a finish. I have gone a little bit deeper with this one. I have rounded that off a bit, so I might put this in, which is my other, oops, my other chuck. Is that on center? It's slightly deeper, is this one? Yeah. So if you don't have a couple of these done, then that's the beauty of having such a thick piece of wood. You can just return it. So we'll go back onto this one, and for this stage now, you can use tape if you want, but I don't particularly like to. So I have my glue gun here, which is nice and warmed up. Now you've got to be fairly quick with this, but it does work. So splodge some glue on there. And then because we've got that lined up already, we can just line that in. Good pressure, make sure that that's got a really good attachment, and your glue will go off pretty quickly. Again, you try and move that. If it ain't moving, you should be fine to turn it. So there's a little bit of overspill there. That's brilliant because that will allow me to see that that's all gone off properly. Be careful that you don't put tons and tons of glue on it, because this has just slightly sat it at a little bit of an angle. It's a fraction of a mil out, so it's not going to make a huge difference to the piece. But if you put loads and loads and loads of glue on there, and you're really slow at putting them together so it starts to go off, it's not going to be able to compress the glue, and it won't attach it very well. So just be careful when you are using the hot melt glue. And if you feel like you've left it a little bit too long, let it go off, peel it off, do it again. Really don't risk it if it started to dry, to set, cure, whatever the word is. So this one now, we can go back to the ball gouge and we can put our curve on this side. So I like to try and get them, it's difficult to get them even because we can't see the curve at the other side. So, but because it's so small and we've gone for a fairly gentle curve, then we should be okay. Now, as I say, I like to leave a little sort of flattened area. Nothing much, 1/16 of an inch or so. Again, I'm going to scrape this because we've got the shape fairly quickly. Pardon? Ooh, David, we've got another member. Welcome to Tiny Turner. Team Tiny, even. I forgot what it was called. That should do us. So again, give that a nice quick sand up. That 240 is dying a death. Anyway. I have a bump. Another bump. Let's get shot of that. I've been rubbish with the chat. Sorry, guys. It's just the resin's just everywhere, and I will catch up in a bit. Promise. See you later, Terry. Can't get rid of that bump. That should do us, yeah, much better. So again, I'm sticking with the net abrasive because I can feel heat build up and keep moving the abrasive around, so you're keeping it cool, keeping the piece cool. I think I have a little bit of something weird going on there. I need to find, what's that, 180? I'm gonna have to drop right back to 180 with this because I've got something weird happening. Scott's upgraded to super member. Yay! Thank you so much, Scott. I've got a lot of mugs to send out now. Oh, by the way, guys, I have. Well, I don't know if it's announcement or what. I'll tell you in a second once I've finished sanding this because it's actually going right now. So I am speed sanding. I am aware of that. But the compounds that I use are really good, so they're very good at taking out scratches from lazy sanding, actually. Okay. Oop. So it does pop off quite, when you get your nails under it, it pops off quite easily, does this stuff. It tends to stick onto your resin a lot. But that is our first little disc done so far. We have to polish it yet. I'll just let Casper get it on the camera for you. There we go. So that's where we're at so far. We've got a little bit of a flat edge, and that is our pendant currently. It will look a million times better once it's polished, but I will polish in a little while once we have moved on from our next one. Now, it's really good to get your glue off, guys. You don't want to build up of this stuff at all. Mind you, I'll just swap onto this one. We'll go back to the other chuck because that one's clean. Okay, so that first pendant, all that it needs is, it just needs mounting. It needs the finding mounting onto it. That's it. That one, and it needs polishing. So that one's done. They are so easy to do, are those. Honestly, that is just, once you've got your chucks done, you're putting it straight onto a flat chuck, turning one side, turning it round, do it on a dish chuck, doing the other side. Dead easy. You can churn them out, and they're really fun to make of these. The longest bit's getting blooming glue off again. So we're going to do the same with this one. And then we're going to go a stage further with this one. And we're going to do our offset hole. So that one is always a little bit of a interesting one to watch. And again, I'll show you my little tricks for doing these. So get your glue on there. And get that attached. A good amount of pressure should squeeze some of the glue out. And just leave that a couple of minutes. You're all drinking cognac. So while this glue is just setting, because it's not far off, there was mutiny. There was mutiny on Thursday. We had mutiny from within the realms of Team Tiny. We might have to go and get one. Because, because I was told that if Casper had his own team, that people would pay more and join Casper's team, basically. So there's been developments on that front. And even more to follow. I'm shocked, quite frankly. Pardon? They're just on table. Yeah, there was mutiny, so we'll show you in just a minute. Let's move that. We don't need that anymore. Okay. So I'll just wait for Casper to get back. That's still just a little bit squidgy because I did put quite a bit of glue on this one, with it being a larger one. So I'll just wait for that to go. Team Casper, you see, it's just like I'm appalled. So yeah, the development is this, and very soon, well, I'll let Casper can show you on his camera. Casper's gonna have his own crew. Casper's crew. So there you go. Ghostly Casper. I just don't know what to say, guys. I think you're all awful. So yes, there will be some Casper things coming out because people have been asking. Right. Enough of that. I'm going to continue to turn so I'm just taking it steady with this. I do prefer to do a push cut than a pull cut. As I've already mentioned, the pull cuts can be a bit too aggressive for a chuck like this, a glue chuck or a tape chuck. Now this one's going to be a little bit faffy. We're going to be backwards and forwards a tiny bit, so I apologise for that. But you will, all will become clear.
Couldn't polish too fine, just thinking of just reduction, Steve.
Say again.
Steve, what she's saying is, couldn't polish too fine.
Oh, no, it's not too fine at all. Cut and polish is quite coarse. If you were to line them up in order of coarseness, I find, and I mean like that's between cut and polish and Yorkshire grit, because a lot of people use Yorkshire grit, myself included, to cut. Come on, Emma, use your brain to polish resin. And if I was to put them in order of coarseness, I would say Yorkshire cut and polish first. I find that a little bit more aggressive than Yorkshire grit, but Yorkshire grit is made from rotten stone and pumice. Those are the abrasive compounds in the Yorkshire grit, and they are held in a mixture of mineral oil, lemon oil, beeswax. And because of that, you are going to have some variation because it's using natural products. The ones that I've got, as I say, I find that it's cut and polish Yorkshire Grit Original, then Yorkshire Grit Microfine, and then burnishing cream, chestnut burnishing cream. So that is the order that I sort of find them to work as in. But yeah, it definitely, anything that helps with dust reduction with this is just 100% a winner. Now this is why I don't like epoxy, because it does shatter, or I find it shatters quite a bit. I'm not a fan. I say that every time I turn it.
Thank you, Nigel.
So I'm just going on scraping again with the cutting edge of the bow gouge, using that long drawn back wing to my advantage.
Casper says thank you, Nigel.
Pardon?
I'm not going into it, Nigel. Casper says thank you.
Oh, Casper says thank you, Nigel. He does an amazing job. I'm rubbish on my own. He's my wingman. I hate doing lives without him. Normally we are a bit more animated. I'm just having to concentrate with using glue chucks and stuff. It's not something that you want to be sort of lackadaisical about. I wonder what the captions wrote lackadaisical as. I'm going to have to wait for that to catch up and see what it... Lack of days all about. It's not right. Right then. Don't shatter, don't do it. Right. So I'm going to sand this face up as well, and then we're going to start getting into the interesting part. Let's turn the speed up. I've been turning that really slowly. So be careful of the heat, because this gets hot so quickly. In fact, it's worth turning the speed down for the sanding, actually. But I'm just trying to whiz through the grits, so speed sanding it is. Okay. Now, at the moment, I don't really want to take that off. And I should have done this earlier, but I didn't think it through.
Now, on the back of this other dished chuck, we have, if I can get that off. Let me just get that off here, because I'll need to do the same. I'll just explain it on here, actually. So, on the back of this chuck, at the moment, we've just got one drill hole, okay, for the screw. We're now going to put a second one in, a little bit further up, roughly about, where do we want that to be? It's about 3/4 of an inch for one of these larger pendants, maybe half an inch if it's a smaller one. All you need to basically work out is where you want that hole to be, and don't forget it's not just a small hole. So if you think about it, if you get a drill bit, this one here is the one I'm going to be using tonight. What size is that? It's a 1/2 inch bit. So if you roughly look at where you want that hole to be and sort of eye it through to the other side, on this particular pendant, it is about 3/4 of an inch. So I've made this awkward for myself by not drilling the hole first. What I tend to do with these is, you'll notice that I've got this hole drilled in the front. That's what we're going to achieve in a second. And at the back, let me get it off and then I can explain it, because I'm going to have to wing it a bit on this other one. I should have drilled the hole first. So we've got our offset hole. This one's between 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. It's just over 1/2 inch. And then I've got a line on the top, a pencil line, to show me where that hole is, which orientation it is. And that makes lining everything else up really, really important and really easy. So I'm sort of doing this backwards because I'm trying to avoid taking this blank off at this stage. So I'm sorry about that. I should have done this a slightly different way. Normally I would be taking that off. I'm trying to save the glue chuck and just do it all in one. So I want, that's the centre of my piece. I want it to be orientated up there. So I want that there. And then across.
Oh. Only back a little less right in Casper's Emma.
Okay, so it's not far off that bit. So I'm just going to grab my drill. I'm going to put this on the rubber mat. So I'm sorry I'm drilling this out of sight. I'll just show you when it's done. Nope. Okay. Yeah, so that is roughly where we want it to be. So now I am going to put this, I'm going to offset this and screw into the screw chuck here. So it's offset by that roughly 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. 5/8, let's call it. Middle for diddle. Okay. So again, mark up on your chuck, on your screw chuck faceplate thing, that where those two will match together as well. And that is our centre. So that is quite an offset. So we're going to turn the speed down to start with, right down. And we're going to drill our hole for the cloth to go through with the Jacob's chuck. I always pilot these with the Jacob's chuck, and as large a drill bit as you want, really. I wouldn't go for a Forstner bit on this, just a large drill bit. You can always enlarge, no, one. You can always enlarge the hole with the chisels if you want it to be a little bit wider. Phil, I've just read it properly. I didn't read it halfway. I didn't read it fully. Okay, so that is where we are going to be offset. Might be a little bit much actually. I think probably 1/2 inch is better. Let's put these on. And we'll drill through. So keep that speed nice and low. And hopefully the glue chuck will hold. And I am drilling into the chuck itself. So I'm gluing into that faceplate, into the glue chuck, and you'll see why. And I've made it a deliberate cut as well. It's we can go a little bit deeper than that actually. That would make sense. So you want it to go in a decent amount, 1/2 inch or so. Now we've got that hole. If you want, you could just leave that and you've got a nice even, that's not going to stay, is it? You've got a nice even hole there going through both sides and you could leave it. But I like to just dish these a tiny little bit. Right, I'm just going to see if I can squidge a bit more hot melt down the side of this and not move it. It really doesn't matter that it's overflowed, but we've got a good amount down the back. I just need it to re-secure that side. So we'll leave that a minute or so to cure. And then we can just take our chisel and we'll just take a little bit of a cut from there. Just let that dry. Yeah, you could use a countersink bit, but I tend to make it quite broad so it sort of flows nicely. Instead of just a small area, but there's nothing wrong with doing that with a countersink bit, I suppose. Good idea. I'm impatient. Right, so if you are going to turn it, just turn the speed up a tad for cutting with your tools. You don't want it up much. And we're just feathering in this cut. But be careful that, again, you're not applying much pressure. You want to let the bevel ride and just kind of guide the cutting edge into that hole. And it also allows you to sort of just make that hole a little bit more shallow instead of as thick as it is, because this is about just over 1/4 inch thick is this piece. So that's quite a lot of weight in the middle. So this is just taking that out a little bit and evening it up. So we'll have a stop and have a quick look. You sometimes get a stepped area. Yeah, I could hear it cutting it. So just a couple of gentle cuts again. I just let it cut slightly too deep. And the reason you get that is because it's out of true and because we're not cutting on a flat surface. It just sometimes digs in where we don't quite want it to. But that's even that out. So now
we can take this off, and we need to go from the other side because we want it nice and even. And this is the bit that, well, it can be, I don't think it's faffy, because if you have drilled through like we've done this evening, matching everything up is easy peasy. So most of the glue, oh, that's quite good, has come off on the resin. The bit I need to get off really is this on the front. And that little bit. So do not move the chuck, okay? Don't be taking it off and moving it or doing anything else. Keep it exactly where it is, and then you know you will get a properly lined up pendant. And I will show you what I mean. So one thing that I didn't do tonight, which I apologise for, I should have thought it through, but because I turned the new chuck, it just completely went out of my head. But what I should have done is, when you decide where you want this hole to be, make sure that when you put your glue on, that you're lining the pendant up so that you know that that's where your hole, that is where your hole is going to be drilled. So I always line these up in the same place as much as I possibly can, and make sure that I'm happy with the orientation. So we don't want it offset like that, so that you've got the hole here and you know you've got your burr running at an angle. You want it lined up really as good as possible. And you will always drill the same hole because you've got a screw chuck behind it, so you don't need to worry about that. Will that go on? That's the question. Oh yeah, it will. Okay, so this side now does need quite a lot of glue. And we are still going to be lining it up with our chuck, our tailstock, but all I'm going to do is hang that on there. Helps if I hang it the right way around. Okay, just right at the tip. So I'm going to lock the spindle of the lathe off. That's all in line. I know it's in line because the drill bit's going into the recess that we've cut. I'm just going to back that off a little bit. Line some of the quill out so that we've got room to work. I'm going to have to take it out a bit further. Pardon? Can't hear you. So, good amount of glue on there, guys. Bring that straight up. Line that in. And we know now that that is lined up and is running on the same centre.
Keith Sterling, Supermember.
Ooh, welcome, Keith. So it's just a little trick, but that is running bang on the same centre now. We know that it's going to line up both sides. So we can finish off turning our little bit here. So again, speed fairly low. I'm hoping that I've let that dry enough. We'll soon find out. So one thing I have totally forgotten to do was sand the other side, but not to worry, it's not the end of the world. So we just want a little bit of a taper running into there.
Say goodbye to Leona.
Pardon?
Just say goodbye, Leona.
Oh, bye, Leona. Thank you for watching. There we go, guys. Yeah, so don't forget to sand before you turn it round. I was a bit too eager with that. Whoops. But if you do, I would just put a sanding arbor into the lathe and sand it on there. Just take it steady if you do that. So I'll just give that a really quick going over on this side with some abrasive. I'm not too worried about the glue because actually the Menzerner compounds will remove that. It's just going to play havoc with my abrasive. And now we can do the polishing bit, and I'll talk to you a little bit about jewellery findings. That'll do. Right. So, knife. Where's my knife? So plug that. Just trying to get the knife behind the glue. And don't try and lever it off because that will not work. You'll just break the pendant. If you do these out of wood and you use end grain, this is the worst part, trying to get your glue off. I'm trying very hard not to cut into the pendant. Come on. They never stick this well. Quite pleased with that. That ain't budging. Typical. Crikey. Just must have put way too much glue on there. It's not coming off. Pardon? Yeah, mate. Yeah. Where's it now? Look. Just give it a bit of gentle persuasion. Same way that I remove awkward jam chucks. You don't want to bust your mallet. Where's mine? Dogged old thing. Oops.
Don't worry about that.
That is well and truly stuck. That is so annoying. Forget it. I'll get that off another time. Be here all night. So I'll just put my cone centre into the tailstock. And I'm going to put the chestnut buffing tree into the chuck because it's aces that for finishing jewellery. Really, really good. So put that into the chuck. Now this, you can't use this faster than 1500 RPM, so make sure you check your speed, guys. We don't want to be this to be zooming around. And then I am using, thank you, my 3 compounds. So I'm going to be using the, oops, we don't need that. Let's move that out of the way. Coarse compound first, which is on the A mop. The B mop's got the middle one, the gloss wax, and then this one's got the finest compound on there. Now, please be careful when you are doing anything small. Let me just, I know I just need it focusing on something. Just be careful when you're doing anything small because you're going to get polished fingernails. So if you're doing a lot of these little pieces, I would probably go for something like the, where are the dome mops, because you can press that into the dome mop and they fit the same mandrel, which is brilliant. But you can press onto those and it's just a lot safer to use. I'm just using this for speed, really. So make sure that's turned down. There we go. I do tend to load quite a bit of the first compound on there just to make sure it really cuts. See you later, Trevor. Yes, please. And all you're doing is making sure that it's removed the scratches from the sanding, basically. So I do load quite a bit of compound on there because if you don't, it just won't cut. If you're going to do the edge, make sure that you keep it in line with the mops. If you do it that way, it's going to catch and it can pull it out of your fingers. So be careful with that. And then we can go on to the middle compound. Now that one doesn't need loading up anywhere near as much. The last two you don't use as much at all. But all I'm basically doing is just polishing it, checking it in the light, because I've got quite strong LED lights above me, so I can see any scratch marks coming through. And if I find that I've missed some, you can. The great thing about buffing tree is you just go back down to the previous grit. That's better. Live stream Rob, can you use that on anything intended for food? They are not classified as food safe finishes. There's very, very few finishes that are classified as food safe, but there's nothing wrong with, you'd probably be able to wipe it down afterwards, because technically resin, once it's cured, is supposed to be classed as food safe once it's completely cured. Some of them do have a food safe labelling, but yeah, these compounds kind of, all they're doing is polishing. They're not really putting anything onto your piece. So I'm making sure I've done both sides, and then the last one will really bring out that glass-like finish. And that is ready for us to just complete and make into a pendant. I'm so annoyed about this one. Thank you, Buster. Can't get it. Bloody hell. Nah, can't get it off at all. But I will show you that the first compound will take off some of that glue, so you don't have to worry too much about getting it off the surface. It kind of just removes it. So at least you'll get to see one part of this finished.
It gets hot when you go with this.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about. I was wondering if this would just help release it. Just clean that off a bit. Put a bit more on. So that's taking the glue off. And then we can just take this down. Oh. That's what happens if you catch the edge. Anyway, I'm not fishing that out. I'm going to talk about fastenings. No, I will. Let's get it finished. So you can see that side of it at least. Go up to the next one. Got a little bit of a catch on that centre point where we're putting out that recess. Yeah, that's quite bad actually. In fact, I might as well leave that because I need to put that back on the lathe. If I just polish it up in the last one, it'll really highlight it. There you go. Got a little catch. Couple of little catches there just from shaping because I was starting to rush it a little bit, so I will put that back on the lathe and I'll just round those off again. So we'll leave this on there. Well, I've got no choice anyway at the moment because it's not going anywhere. But I quite like the colour of that one. So last but not least, I'm just very quickly going to go through about findings. So I'll show you with this one and I'll just grab that. Okay. So the beauty of the ones with the offset hole is that you don't actually need anything special to attach your cord with. That is literally pushed through the hole, and all we've got, this is just a piece of leather thonging,
and it's got two little end caps on there. We might not be able. Oh, yeah, we can zoom in. So it's got a little end cap on each and a lobster claw clasp. And just decide which side you want the front. Pop that through from the back and just hook that round. And that is a really, really simple way of finishing. Sorry, pop it through from the front so that you've got it neat at the front. So that is a really quick way of finishing a pendant. Now, I tend to use about 20 to 22 inch length. Now, obviously, I'm a lot smaller than the average person. So 20 to 22 inch of leather is spot on for using one of these. Obviously on somebody, this is 22 inch, so if I was wearing this myself, I would be pulling this up and taking about 2 or 3 inches off the overall length of the necklace so that it sits better. But that works well. I have got these available in the shop. So anybody who's new here, I have got a little online shop, which is www.thetinyturner.co.uk, and I sell all sorts of little things on there. I sell the blanks, and I'm starting doing jewellery findings. So this is a 22 inch leather thonging, and it's not got a pinch bail on it. So that's it. Length of leather, and it's genuine leather, and I've glued, well, you get these pieces as well. I am undecided whether or not to glue them on for people, because if they're glued, you can't adjust them. So I was thinking of just putting all the components together in a little envelope, basically, and you glue them yourself. The glue that I use, I am getting some. I hoped that it would be here. I've been really let down by a load of deliveries recently. Let me just find it. There we go. It's GS Hypo cement. It's a proper jeweller's cement, and it's, if I take the cap off, it's got a, oh no, I broke it earlier. It's got a really, really fine needle applicator so that you can apply it with real precision. The trouble is as I say, I have broken mine and I had to yank the tip out again with a pair of pliers and put it back in, but unfortunately it has broken. So I am going to be stocking this pretty soon because it's really good stuff. You can use super glue, it's just a little bit more faffy. I do some twisted leather cord as well. So these ones are 18 inches long. And again, using the same little connectors. At the moment, I only have silver and gold connectors available, but very soon I'll have rose gold and gunmetal to add to that. So these are the little connectors. And then we've got pinch, that's the gold. I'll show you the gold. There we go. So those ones are the gold ones, if I can get a close-up on those. Sorry, it's really... So those are the gold ones. Again, you got your lobster clasp. Now, I only have 3 colours of leather. I've run out of black. I thought I had some, but I've ordered some more. I have, I think, 6 colours of the twisted thread. So if you wanted a vegan option, then the twisted thread is your vegan option. Now, for the smaller pendants, if I just grab that, I use something called a pinch bail, and it's just a slightly different little mount that you can use. So I had one. I'm gonna put the jewellery findings. There we go. I thought I'd grabbed a gold one, but I haven't. I'll have to use silver. So this is a pinch bail or an ice pick bail. Again, sorry, we'll just try and get a quick close-up and then you can...
It's really hard because you don't fix stuff.
My hands are filthy. So that is a pinch bail or an ice pick bail. And you open it up and it's got a little pick on each side that will go into a little drill hole that we're going to do now. So if I open that up, sorry, because I'm not keeping still for Casper. You need to open it up wide enough so that you can put your bail over your pendant, and then I sort of just push it together, let it sort of scratch the surface a little bit so that I have a good idea where it's going to go, and then just take a tiny little drill bit, which I had. Everything's just gone to pot tonight. There we go. And I use my trusty little hand drill or hand vise. To drill that hole through. And it's a really nice little connector, is a pinch bail. You can use other things like eye pins. I have got loads of those, but you are drilling down into the top of the piece for an eye pin. And when it's something thin like this, then it's not a lot of good. Oh, thank you, Tom. Now I am hoping to start to stock some slim pieces of resin, because you really don't need a lot to make yourself a little pendant. So that's your pinch bail. You can glue that in, and I would recommend gluing that in just with a little dab of that cement, and then push the pinch bail, because they can, if you catch them, they can open again. But that is your little pendant. I quite like it that way around, actually. That you can then pop your cord through. Oops, other end first. 2 seconds, guys. And there you go. You've just got a really nice little pendant there. So that is your finished piece of jewellery. And I'm sorry about the other one going slightly wrong. But yeah, I'm hoping to do some little slices of resin, because you don't need a lot, and it'd be really, it would only be a few pounds for a little slice of resin, so it'll let you have a go at working with a hybrid blank if you'd not sort of used one before. It won't cost the earth. If otherwise, you can probably get, I am going to cover earrings, but that's going to be on a different night. That's going to be in a few weeks' time, because I've not got all the findings for it. They haven't all come, annoyingly. So in a few weeks' time, I'll cover earrings. You can easily get 4 small pendants out of a 2-inch cube blank easily. And out of a larger blank, you can probably get about 5 if you buy one of the 3-inch cube blanks, because that's what these are from. These are just cut from blanks, basically. But if people are interested, then I'll definitely start looking at doing some. I've got loads in the oven ready to cast. I've got loads of casting to do. I'm behind on it because it's been horrible weather for it. And there you go. So I'm sorry I haven't kept up with the chat tonight, because I've been concentrating way too much. You really do have to be on it when you're using glue chucks. But I hope it's given you some ideas. And definitely watch this space for the earrings. I'll do those soon as a separate demo. Thank you, everybody who's super chatted. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who's joined Team Tiny and upgraded from Team Tiny. That's very much appreciated. And I will have t-shirts up and running on the website hopefully tomorrow. So I am going to say good night. Thank you. Microphone sister work with the power cap. Nigel, I use a Rode shotgun mic. Just go in. I'm done. Thank you very much. Casper's managed to stay out, bless him. He's in a lot of pain now, so he's gonna slope off. You will be you've got a poorly wave from Casper. Yeah, so thank you and see you all soon. I'm really sorry if I've missed problems. Brent, I think I might do that. I'm going to put it back on the lathe and see if I can cut it off, but it's in a scooped thingy, so it might not work brilliantly. And the polishing compound, Scott, are Menzerna polishing compounds, and again, I have those in the shop. There we go. It's not going to work, is it? Those are the compounds. Unfortunately, that's not the best picture because I've opened them, but those are the compounds that I use, and they are absolutely awesome compounds. Where are we? Turn that off. Back onto there. I won't. I'll check anything. If anybody has got any burning questions, then we're live again on Thursday night for the members because I was behind last week because I've been poorly the week before. So the next one is coming up this coming Thursday. If you've got any ideas, guys, then just drop me a line because the piece that we did last time was really good fun. I'll go grab it. Oh yeah, I was thinking about doing captive rings, but we did that little resin piece, which it won't focus on. Will it focus with my hand behind? Hang on a sec. Let's see where camera 2 is. Oh, there we go. So it's kind of this moonstone resin top and a hybrid blank with red mallee burr. So that's what we did last Thursday. And that, anybody who's just joined tonight, you guys have still got access to that. That will stay up. You always have access to any of the member lives at all levels. So have a look if you haven't seen that already. It was a really, really interesting evening. Really good fun. Right then, I'm going in. So good night, everybody. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Take care.